What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I want to get into some Joe Douglas comments that he made from earlier this week. Ethan Greenberg, the Jets team reporter, shared an article yesterday that really popped out to me and I think is something that's worth discussing. It's NFL draft related. He, being Joe Douglas, shared his biggest offseason goal, and what I kind of wanted to get into if that goal is finished or is there more to come? So here's the quote. We'll start there. Ethan Greenberg, again, did the story for NewYorkJets.com. The biggest goal for the New York Jets offseason, the full quote, I think the primary objective this offseason was fortifying the offensive line. Douglas told reporters Monday at the NFL League meetings in Orlando, I think that was goal one. I feel good about what we were able to accomplish there and a few of the other objectives leading into the offseason, but still a lot ahead. So let's start there. I mean, obviously, 3 new starters on the offensive line was going to be a challenge. They moved on from Laken Tomlinson. They cut him and freed up the money, which I think was the right decision for them. It just opened up another hole, though, and that you needed to fill. And they were able to fill all 3 starting positions, 2 via free agency, 1 via trade. So as of right now, of course, the Jets' offensive line is Tyron Smith at left tackle, who they signed on a 1-year deal. John Simpson at left guard, who they signed to a 2-year contract. Joe Tippmann, going into his 2nd year, will be starting at center. Right guard, Elijah Vera-Tucker, he moves back inside, will stick at right guard. And Morgan Moses, who they acquired via trade, a 4th-round pick swap, and a 6th-round pick, will be the starting right tackle. On paper, that should be a much improved offensive line when you look at where they were a year ago. They used 13 different offensive linemen, a ton of different offensive line combinations, just really decimated by injuries on the O-line for the 2nd year in a row. They needed an overhaul. They did just that. Smith comes in, a all-pro caliber starter, went on the field. Morgan Moses, someone that they had in 2021 that was very good for them. He leaves and signs a 3-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Has been a plus starter at right tackle over the last couple of years. And John Simpson, someone who kind of got his real, starting chance last year with the Baltimore Ravens. There's some things to like about him as well. There's a couple of red flags. We talked about the penalties being a potential red flag, but he really plays with a mean, nasty streak, is a aggressive run blocker. And I think if he is your 5th on the pecking order, right? Like if you're ranking your 5 starters on the offensive line, if he's 5th, which as of right now, I would absolutely say that's the case, then I think you could do a lot worse than that. So again, on paper, really, really good. The question then becomes for Joe Douglas, how does he feel about his depth? Listed right now, you have Carter Warren, Xavier Newman, Wes Schweitzer, Jake Hansen, and Max Mitchell as your 5 depth guys. I would imagine the Jets are going to end up carrying 10 offensive linemen. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the Jets are done, right? And that they are going to go into the offseason with this as their depth, Carter Warren and Max Mitchell and so on and so forth. But I would imagine that Joe Douglas would like to add at some point in the NFL draft to the offensive line. This doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a 1st-round pick. I wouldn't rule it out. I think that is something that is still on the table for them. But at some point in the NFL draft, the Jets should be looking to add, because I don't know if I'm crazy comfortable with this. Like Carter Warren and Wes Schweitzer are the 2 best depth guys, in my opinion. Carter Warren, as a rookie last year, had to come in and start in a really tough spot too. Like, was not expected to play, didn't have a full offseason program because of injury, go figure. And Wes Schweitzer, who I thought was okay filling in. Max Mitchell really struggled last year. Xavier Newman and Jake Hansen, I don't know how great you feel about those guys as depth options. So the Jets in both free agency still, as in like a David Bakhtiari, Donovan Smith gets linked to the Jets a lot because he's from Hempstead. Not a huge Donovan Smith fan, so I would say pass on that one. But I don't think Joe Douglas is done with the offensive line. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big swing. If they go in the 1st round and they want to draft a Brock Bowers, or if they want to trade back and take a wide receiver later, or if they want to move up and take a wide receiver, I totally get that. And I think you could justify doing that plan, by the way. If that's the route, again, at some point you have a 3rd-round pick, you have 72, you have 2 4th rounders. One of those next 3 picks after the first rounder, I think would have to go back to the offensive line at that point. Or you could take an offensive lineman at 10, trade back, take an offensive lineman in the first round, and take a receiver in the second round with that pick you gain for moving back. That's a plan that I happen to like a lot, because when you look at the Jets line, even as currently constructed, there's significant injury risk. And I think you are naive if you're expecting 17 games from every single one of these starters. The Jets haven't had a fully healthy offensive line season from all their starters in over a decade. And it's rare that you get that. Someone's going to get banged up and miss time. Tyron Smith hasn't played a full healthy season since 2015. If you get 13 games out of Tyron Smith, you're probably happy with that, but what's your plan for the other 4? Morgan Moses had surgery. AVT is someone who has missed the last 2 years. Joe Tippmann has had got banged up last year, missed a few games, and has had injuries in college. Simpson's remained the healthiest option. He's basically the Laken Tomlinson, right? Who's someone who came in and was just extremely healthy for the Jets. But the notion that, and again, it's not, if you want to go what weapon, I'm not going to argue with you, because I think you can make a really strong case for it. But at the same time, you're probably going to get your number 6 offensive lineman. So your first guy who's technically not a starter is going to probably play, I'm going to say close to 50% of the snaps is going to be my guess, between all the different positions and the number of injuries that they're going to be. And if you have someone who could play both tackle and guard, it might even be higher than that, because, he has the potential to move around. Someone who could do that, Troy Fatanu, Talisi Fuanga, is 2 guys who could play multiple positions. JC Latham projects as someone who could play multiple positions. I'm personally not as high on JC Latham as some, but that's an option in a trade down spot. There's potential moves to be made in the first round if they wanted to. Again, it's not a guarantee that that's the route that they're going to go, but I don't look at this offensive line and the depth of the offensive line and say it's a complete finished product. And who knows, maybe they go back to the veteran market and they add, a Bakhtiari and something else, and you're good. And maybe it's a mid-round pick and you're good to go. Or maybe they value it a little bit more, which is okay because of where they've been on that line for the last few years. And they go, well, neither Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses is under contract for next year. Both guys are over 30 years old. Both guys missed time last year. If they like the tackle class, and if there's a tackle that they really like there, I'm not going to get on them for taking him. Are you? I don't think you should. I think you can make a strong case for it. So really the only issue that I would have from Joe Douglas and the Jets is if they go on the defensive side of the ball. And maybe that's too broad, right? But it's the truth. I don't want to see them go an edge rusher again for a 3rd year in a row in the first round. Sounds crazy because for so many years we were begging the Jets to take edge rushers. I don't want them to move back and take an interior defensive lineman. It doesn't matter to me that you can get a top defensive player. They need more help at either weapon or offensive line. That's what I want to see the Jets come away with in the first round. I want to see them either take a Brock Bowers or a wide receiver that they like, move back, move up, offensive line, whatever they decide. As long as it's something to help the offense, I'm good with. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Once again, I am Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you are new. Give the video a like before you go. I'll catch you next time.